Wesh! 大家好, my name is Mr. Popo and we are Popo. In this last part of creating a futuristic user interface inside of After Effects and Cinema4d, we're going to be taking a look on how we're going to take all the passes that we've created on the last previous tutorials, and we're going to see how we can merge them together and use the power of After Effects and compositing to bring our image, to bring our user interface to the next level. I'm so excited to start this tutorial. Let's get right into it. Beauty pass is your pass that you're gonna start with. This is the pass without anything, without any depth, without anything. It's just the render as is. The depth pass, we use it for depth blur. Sometimes we use it for creating mist. Sometimes we just create it for some color correction purposes, but that's not our focus. And the puzzle mat is a pass that we use for masking so that we can avoid rotoscoping and going and masking things together every single frame by ourselves. So we're gonna combine all this together, and then we're gonna start adding color correction and of course add the futuristic user interface on top. So as you can see here, I have my comp scenes, which is the first scene and the second scene. And of course, we have the animation of the terminal, the futuristic interface. And that's what we did on the first part of this tutorial. And here you can see that I have everything gathered together, like the final product, and I added some sound effects. So as you can see here, I have a folder called SFX, and I have a bunch of alien isolation kind of sound effect pack. And of course, an ASMR alien isolation idle sound effect kind of ambience. So putting this all together here, and I have them in a folder, so everything is organized. Beside all that, when it comes to our scene that we're gonna do, we're gonna be taking a look at this scene to use all the knowledge that we need to know. And of course, there is also this scene, which you can find on the description below. But for our case, we're gonna go and take a look at this scene because it's much more challenging. Beside that, what I have is I have a bunch of textures. So I have a grain noise from a authentic 16mm camera so that I can have this noise that I already pre-rendered that I don't need to use a static After Effects noise. We also have this light leaks from lensdistortions.com, which I highly recommend. Same thing here. Of course, we have this pixel kind of texture, a bunch of shimmers that I use for dust and dust particles. All right. Now, let's get right into creating our first scene. So the way I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna take my beauty pass and I'm gonna hold and drag it into this icon here to create a composition right at the same exact size. So I don't have to go and try to think what kind of size is this one. All right, now that I have that, I'm gonna go and grab my depth pass, which has all the passes but into one, and we're gonna see how we can go and extract each and every pass as we need. Now let's go and drop our futuristic user interface in there. The problem with this one that you're gonna see is we'll have to find a way to actually put this user interface inside of there. So how do we do this? Are we just gonna go and start doing this into 3D and start guessing where it is, you know, and try to make it? And then after we do all this, we'll have to start guessing on animating it with the camera, and if the camera does a very freaky effect, so movement. So what are we gonna do? So this is the wrong way of doing this. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bring in the camera from Cinema4d using the power of the Cineware link. Now I have here open my Cinema4d, and as I explained on the previous tutorial, what I did was I used the power of Morph Camera. Morph Camera is basically where you set up your starting position and your end position, and then you create a new camera, Redshift camera. I'm just gonna put a standard, and I'm just gonna go to animation tag, camera morph. And here I drop in the first camera, and then I drop in the second camera, and then I animate this as I wish. Now here is the problem about this one, is that if you import this, so if I try and import this camera, for example, here, as you can see here, it is animated. All right, so I'm gonna go inside of After Effects and I'm gonna bring in my project file, which is the Cinema4d. And then all I have to do is drag and drop it. I'll just hide it so that I don't have to use much processing power. And I'm just gonna go here and say extract. Now I'm gonna have a bunch of cameras here and I have a null object so that I can see what kind of screen that is. Now this is our camera, okay? But the problem here, as you can see, the null is not moving. So the null is just a test to show us if the camera is actually moving or if we get any data, but nothing is moving. And that is because if I try to press position or U, I will see that my camera has literally no keyframes. There is no keyframes here. And that is because After Effects does not understand this tag right here. So how can we solve this problem? Well, it is very simple. All you have to do is select your camera and then select your tag. Okay, so once again, select your camera and then select your tag. And then go inside Window, Timeline here, and you're gonna have everything selected. So you just go to your function and then you say Bake Object. So what's gonna happen now is that After Effects has created for me a camera here that has all the keyframes. So if I go here inside of After Effects and update, I will have this camera right here. And if I press U, I will have all the keyframes in it. So now, all I need to do is make this 3D and link this to, let's just say, this one here. And I'm just gonna go and zero out all the positions so that this is exactly where the null object is, as you can see here. But the thing is, it's a little bit too big, and that's exactly what she said. So I'm just gonna go and I'm just gonna rotate it a bit. Try to move it up a bit. Okay, so let's see now. All right, now we can just delete this one since we don't need it. We'll just delete the cameras that we are not using, and I can just delete this one as well, and probably even delete this one. Now that we have our futuristic user interface there, we have a bunch of problems, and one of them is how can we solve this thing right here? And this is the power of puzzle mats. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna go to my depth pass. All right, so this is my depth pass. It's basically now, it looks like the beauty pass. So to fix this, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna call in an effect called Extractor. Extractor is a plugin made so that you can extract depth passes from, let's just say, your layers, your file. So now when I extract the puzzle mat, as you can see, I just put puzzle mat here. And if I need, I'll just put depth map or puzzle mat. Now that I have the puzzle mat, all I need to do is select this color right here. But the problem here is I have this black thing. So I'm just gonna go to linear color key and I'm just gonna remove the black. Now this is what I have, which is good. And I'm just gonna go, just for the sake of being so sure about myself, I'm just gonna go and put this into white. The reason I do this is just so that this user interface understand what this is. So I'm just gonna go and do an alpha inverted. So now you can see that my user interface is completely masked out and I didn't do any single masking. So that is the power of puzzle mat. Now that we have this sorted out, we can start actually taking care of a lot of small little problems that we have in our image. Well, the first thing is we have a lot of certainty. We have a lot of noises going on here. We have a lot of noises here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come here and call in for a denoise effect. I'm gonna make sure that on if GPU supported, CPU otherwise. So this way, while I'm previewing, it's not gonna slow because my computer is not using the CPU, but it's actually using GPU, which is extremely faster. So you can see the difference between before and after. Now that we have that, another thing that I like to do a lot is I want this to stand out. So what I do is I go here and I'll add slight Gaussian blur, like 1 or 2. I just blur this just a little bit. And the reason I do this, it's just so that my UI stands out a bit more than the actual machine, because I don't want the viewer to focus on the machine, but mostly the user interface, if I wish to do so, if that is my intent. And that is exactly my intent. Another thing you saw me doing is I went and I did a repeat edge pixel. What this is, let's look at here. So when I start blurring, you see After Effects start eating out this. And if I repeat edge pixel, it's gonna get fixed. And that is exactly what I wanted to do. So it's just gonna go and turn this down until around 1 or 2. All right, now our user interface is standing out way more. Now, what about the depth pass bubble? How are we gonna use that? And that's very simple. So I'm just gonna go and duplicate this again. And I'm just gonna look at this. I'm just gonna delete actually that. I'm just gonna go and bring in my depth pass here. And I'm just gonna single this one and have this one here. Now I'm gonna go and call in again my effect extractor, put a depth. So what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna hide this, I'm gonna put it down. Now in this right here, the beauty pass, I'm gonna go and call in for camera lens blur, for example. And then inside a camera lens blur, which is a very more advanced blur and realistic, first I'm gonna fix that problem with the repeat edge pixel. I have here a bunch of options when it comes to the blur map. So I'm gonna go and say I want my depth pass. But the problem here is I still don't have anything yet. And that is because I need to include the effect here, and that is this one. So now I can actually take whatever focus I want. And you can see that if I invert, you see this? If I try to actually increase this blur, and let's just say it's 0, you're gonna see that my camera starts focusing on certain object according to where my focus distance is. And this is how you can achieve those cinematic kind of effect or transition. Another, for example, very super quick tip is if I do this as 90 degree and then I add this as 3.3, for example, you can see that now I have that bokeh effect that you see a lot in movies, a lot. So yeah, that's how it's done. And yeah, if I go and increase this, so that's how it is. So I'm just gonna go and put this into 10, and I'm just gonna keep it this way. It's not too much, and like this, it's not too much. It's just a bit more so that you can focus on this by itself. But the perfect thing that I like to do is not put it inside of the beauty pass, but actually apply it on everything. And that is using an adjustment layer, and I'm gonna call this blur. And I'm gonna put this in there. Now everything is gonna be affected. So I'm just gonna go and put a 10. Now things are blurred and focused right here, which is pretty cool. All right, now that we have everything in place, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start and try to take care of this screen, because right now it looks turned off and it looks very still. This FUI doesn't really look like it's living 100% with the scene. So I'm gonna go and fix up all these issues. So firstly, this is the last thing that we're gonna use. All right, so I'm gonna call this main, all right? And I'm just gonna go and try to do a duplicate here. But before I do a duplicate, I wanna first do an add here. And the reason I add this is just because I wanna add the colors to this, to that, so they live together more. So you won't see much difference until I add a lot of effects to this. But first, I'm gonna go and add something that I really like, and that is going here to Gaussian blur and add a tons of it. I'm talking tons, like really a lot. Something like this. So as you can see here, what's happening is I'm actually blurring this so that it gives up that effect that it's actually, you know, the light from the screen. So that is the first step. Now, I'm gonna go here, I'm gonna add a little bit of effect just to make this live with the screen a lot more. And that is by adding first a Venetian blind. And the reason I add this is just to get this effect of screen pixels. So we'll just have to go like 14. So as you can see here, the screen is starting to cut. But the thing is, let's just go with a 3. So it's not really fitting well. So I'm just gonna rotate it just a bit more so that it fits the rotation of the screen. And then I'm gonna go and just put like 3 here. Let's add a little bit. Something around 6. Okay, so it's not too much, just a little bit. Okay, and the things that I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna go add, let's just say a glow. All right, I think the glow is a little bit not too good here, so I'm just gonna go add more color on the threshold, and then I'm gonna increase this by a lot just so that, you know, just as you can see here, it feels like it leaks on the screen, and that is why I really like adding a lot on this threshold. So as you can see the difference already. Okay, cool. Another thing that I could do is do the effect of screen, and to do that I'm gonna go duplicate this one. I'm gonna call this mirror 1, and then I'm just gonna go and put this from add to screen, and then I'm gonna go and push this just a little bit less, and then I'm gonna go to this and just take off the glow. All right, cool. I'm just gonna put this into, let's just say 15%, and then I'm gonna duplicate this again, position just a little bit more down, and then this one is gonna have even less. All right, one cool thing that I can add here is that if I don't want actually the user to really see what's going on here, I can just go and do a Gaussian blur, and let's just say around 6. Yeah, there we go. I'm just gonna copy this and I'm just gonna paste it on the other one. There we go. So now what I created is I have this screen kind of effect. All right, so that's pretty way better than before. So when you have this leak of glow, as you can see here, if I just take this off, it's not as now let's play better a bit with the color correction. So now it's leaking on the screen, and that's first I'm gonna really, go and add really beautiful. Some of the textures here. I'm gonna go and add this 16mm. I'm just gonna put it. I'm just gonna put it here. I'm gonna put it as screen, of course. And I'm just gonna go, I think it's a little bit too much, so I'm just gonna go and turn down this a little bit more to 40%. So you can see the difference here. So it's not really that very clean camera. It doesn't make sense. There's no such thing as a very clean camera. There we go. So we have a little bit of noise. If you don't have this, all you can do is you can create a new adjustment layer, add grain. I'm just gonna go to final output and just put this into 0.25, and you get that effect. As you can see here, you get that effect. But the only problem with this one is that it's not natural too. It's really heavy to preview and render. So that's why I like to use this. There is a bunch of websites and hundreds of free content that you can download or you can buy, so they differ, but these are a little bit free, so a little bit free. They were cheap to buy, so they were very authentic, and they are more than 4K, so yeah, I'll take it. So that is said, now I'm just gonna go and add an adjustment layer, and this one I'm gonna call it CC, and I'm gonna start adding a little bit of color correction here. So in terms of curve, I was just gonna add a little bit more darkness into this. I feel like everything is a little bit too bright, as you can see, so I'm just gonna add some darkness into the scene. I feel like I could add a little bit more the blue tone to appear more. When it comes to the green, I don't want too much of it, or should I not even touch it? I feel like if I want to touch just a bit, so you can see the difference between the two. There's no need to go even further unless you want to play with the red channel and how the red highlights look, so you can see, you can start getting this cinematic kind of effect, which could go great. I mean, yeah, we could just try this. I think I like it. I'm gonna add, since we used a lot of blurs, I'm just gonna go and sharpen this a little bit more. So sharpen is this effect that, you know, you see beginner After Effects users do a lot. They just like it, but we're not gonna use this much. We're just gonna use around 20, just a tad bit, so that we can see a little bit of those uncertainties in the screen. Another thing that I'm gonna do here that I love doing a lot is glow. So it looks really bad, but if you bear with me just a little bit, is that if we increase this like a lot, you know, we start having this bleak on the camera, but the intensity is a little bit too much, so we're just gonna go and reduce that a tad bit, so you can see the difference here is that everything is actually reflecting on the camera, and I really like that. All right, so you can see the difference here is that things start reflecting on the camera, and that's what I like a lot about this kind of effect. Another thing that I'm gonna do, and you all know me, I love it a lot, and that is called the VR chromatic aberration. This is a little bit too much. I think we don't really need to go here a lot. What this effect does is that it separates the red, green, and blue channel, obviously. So what I like, what you can do here is you can set the amount of how much you're gonna explode that chromatic aberration. I don't like to go too far. I like to keep it subtle, so I'm just gonna go this way. Now, then you're gonna have a problem here at the end. There's a lot of ways to solve this, but my favorite way is creating that Hollywood kind of strip thing. So I just create a shape layer or solid that is black, and then I go and double click so that it makes me a mask that is exactly there. I'm gonna say subtract, and I'm just gonna bring in this one and then hold Control. So if I hold Control, I'm gonna take both sides, so as you can see here. So just gonna make sure, for example, it's just like this. All right, so now it looks a little bit more cinematic than before. So as you can see here, you can already see the difference between the two images. So this is how we started, and this is how we are. And that is the power of compositing. Another thing that we could do, and this is more of a personal taste, is I like to use these. So how are we gonna use this? So if I try and drag this in here, first let's look at what this is. So this, I'm just gonna go and scale it down just so that we can see these are 2K, I believe. No, it's actually 4K. So you got this really beautiful texture. Now the reason I have this texture here is because of this thing here. I really like that texture here, and I would love to have it around that very bright side of my composition. So I'm just gonna go and screen this. So as you can see here, but then of course you're gonna have this, and that's not really beautiful, and we're gonna fix this with a little bit of feather. All right, I think this is still a little bit too harsh, so I'm gonna go like 35. All right, so now it's perfectly blending with the scene, and if I try to play this, I'm just gonna wait when the computer turn up. I'm just gonna wait for this. Wait, where's the texture? Oh, somewhere here. Okay, so the moment this happens, the moment this screen lights up, I want that texture to happen. So I'm just gonna go and bring this up. All right, so as you can see, this whole light is gonna interact with our camera the moment this appears. I just feel like this is a little bit too bright. So what I like to do a bit to fix these kind of effects is to actually call in for linear color key. Sometimes I like to do this is I like to take off that much, as you can see here. So I like to take off a little bit of that color, and I just like to soften it a bit. So this way it's not too bright, and I like to go into my feather and just feather this even more. And maybe just turn down a bit the opacity. All right. So now we'll have this texture going on here, and that is really, really beautiful. One thing that you can do is you can even, you know, push it a little bit far so that it doesn't really cover your whole screen. The other thing that I like here is that I think this is a little bit too dark in terms of the lights that we created and the screen and everything. So what you can do is you can, for example, bring in this one here. Again, this is how you can use this kind of what do we call this, textures. I mean, I can just revert it like this. I can just go to, let's just say, box blur, and I'm just gonna go and just put a lot, you know, just put a lot here, do a screen, and just turn the opacity down, you know, and just do something like that. And of course, you just feather this baby a whole lot. All right, and one thing is I don't want this to start. I want it to already be there so that we have this kind of light that is going on. So you don't have a very empty frame. Another thing that you could do is the moment it turns here, you can just go and create a new optical flares here. Solid, call this OP. I'm gonna call in for optical flares, and I'm just gonna go and clear everything and just bring in this kind of, for example, this kind of texture. I just want this one, or I could just go for this right here. Let me show you this one here. All right, so I'm just gonna go and click OK, and then I'm just gonna go and do a screen and just put it below, and I'm just gonna go and turn the brightness down. So what I'm gonna do is, what I could do is I could start from here, and then the moment the screen is gonna rotate around here, I could say that it actually, you know, shows itself. All right. So then you get that really beautiful texture appearing on top of each other. Another thing, you always have to remember that you don't have to stick with this. I mean, what you could do, you could even tint this, and you can even color it at any color you want. So don't just stay there and say like, oh no, the colors are not exactly what I was looking for. And you can even blend the colors together, as you can see here. So without it and with it, so now the colors blend even more. And it's the same thing again. It's the same thing that you can do in this particular one. So if I go to tint, and now I have it white, so it's like dust. And if I try to do red or do blue or anything just to fit this color, so I could just go and do this and just go to a brighter color of that, and I don't have to mix it 100%, so I could just mix a little bit of it. So this will show that it's actually because of the light off the screen. So this is the kind of things that you can add to your style frames, is trying to make this as authentic as possible, just like it was shot on a real camera. And I believe with this, we concluded this whole long series of creating a futuristic user interface unlike others. In the description below, you'll actually see everything on how I composited this sound effects to fit this, and the way I cut this just to make sure that it actually follows up with the previous scene. You could also see a behind the scene of how I use these textures and shimmers and how I could get this. So just go get the project file and have fun with it. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. That's it from me for this really long and very exciting series of creating a futuristic user interface using Cinema4d and After Effects or any 3D software. I hope you learned a lot. If there is anything that you are unsure, unclear, or you want to ask, just let me know in the comment below. If you like this series, if you like this tutorial, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe for more content, if so you wish. Again, my name is Mr. Popo and we are Popo. I'll see you on the next one.